climate was like a horse. It was relatively easy to ride. Climate's become something more of a raging bull. So you have to adapt. But it's not only adaptation, you have to think how you harness it.
The Gazelle Valley Park in Jerusalem is Israel's leading example of how nature-based solutions can help mitigate threats from an environmental crisis and vanishing biodiversity. From planting the right type of trees for the local environment to storing rainwater in a way that helps prevent flooding in nearby neighborhoods. Born after local residents fought against plans by developers to construct a luxurious housing project, the park was designed with the idea of protecting a local gazelle population as well as local flora and fauna. At the same time, providing a free space for residents to enjoy nature while also learning.
If you come here first thing in the morning, you see this beautiful landscape of gazelles grazing, ducks swimming, and the city developing in the background. Every constituency, every quarter in Jerusalem should have such a park. And every city in Israel should have such parks in every quarter, dealing with all the climatic challenges, all the social challenges. Listen, the entrance, it's free of charge.
Functioning as a real-life, large-scale experiment, the park aims to demonstrate how the climate challenges facing Israel and the region can be mitigated using smarter and more natural methods.
Climate is not giving us any discounts in Jerusalem. Although we are 800 meters above sea level, we're still on the verge of the desert. So everything here is becoming more volatile and violent from the climatic point of view. So there's a big question how you tackle climate change in such a city. Luckily for us, Jerusalem is very old, and we have urban structures 3,000 years old that have been operating continuously. And we can see how these structures relate to nature and how our ancestors use techniques to reduce heat or to prevent flooding.
One of the main threats from climate change is the frequency of extreme weather events. In the winter, Israel and its neighbors face rapid rainfall, less rainy days per year, but when it does rain, it falls more powerfully and on a shorter timescale. In order to bridge the divide to allow the nature park to coexist with its urban settings, a main challenge was figuring out how to mitigate intense rains which have turned deadly in recent years.
One of the ways we manage winter floods, which have become a big problem in Jerusalem and all over the Mediterranean area, is by reshaping old urban canals. This was your old half concrete, very deep canal. What we did here is we basically increased the width, and we let the vegetation, the different type of vegetation, to take hold and filter the winter waters. So this phragmitis is basically a filter. These grasses are a filter. These newly planted willows, which are a native tree, are a very important element. And you can see that we replant the trees in order to make the water flow gently and meander and slow down and decrease the energy.
These types of solutions can also be used to help the region temper damage from devastating fires, which have only increased in frequency and intensity in recent years. In Jerusalem, where more frequent wildfires have devastated the local biodiversity, some ecologists are pointing to what's inside the forests.
Here you see another species of tree. Has its origins in Israel, but in very limited places. This is the Jerusalem pine, and it's been our go-to plantation tree. And most of Israel is covered with this species, which is fast-growing, pretty cheap to produce, and it's also very dangerous, very susceptible to fire. Basically, it's a huge match. And not only that, it's a short-lived tree that bases its biology on wildfires. It also disperses its seeds with the acorns. After they are burned, it explodes, and they just love fires.
Trees like these are posing a danger to Israel's environment. One problem is the abundance of non-native trees that have been planted in Jerusalem over the course of thousands of years of conquerors and foreign newcomers. And like much that happens in the city, the origins of the Jerusalem pine and how it came to dominate the Judean hills is a prickly matter. Popular folklore claims the trees were brought over from Europe at the beginning of Israel's establishment to make new immigrants feel more at home in their new desert landscape.
It's a part of the folklore because every conqueror that came to Israel used trees from its agronomic palette. In Jerusalem, for example, many of the old groves are from the mandate, British mandate, and they were planted during the 30s, 40s, 50s, later on. And when Israel was established, it was the go-to tree to claim land, to buy land, to conquer land, and to make it Israeli with a pine.
Ecologists like Amir aren't saying these trees need to go, but they're advocating for better, more informed forest planning.
When you work the land as a politician and not as an ecologist, you're bound to pay a price. So ecology is the way to go forward when we tackle climate change. Nature-based solutions based on sound ecology. There is place for trial and error. We don't know everything, but just look around you and learn what is sustainable, what is not, what is safe, what is not.
As the region faces increasing threats from climate change, many of whose effects are already being felt, environmentalists in Gazelle Valley are leading the charge for building a smarter tomorrow.
At the end of the day, the most efficient, cheapest, and existing tool is nature. So if we preserve nature, enhance nature, use nature for our benefits, it's a win-win situation. So we're here in Gazelle Valley Park, and here it's our large-scale experiment.
Mary McAuliffe, I-24 News.